So, I think it's important that we talk about a phenomenon that's very common in society, and that is phone. When I say phone, I could be talking about this television screen, I could be talking about the tablet, I could talk about TV. But I'm just going to say phone, but it could mean any of those things. Anything that you're looking at a screen. So it's a real thing. Phone addiction. Psychology and psychiatry is starting to catch up. There is classification for internet addiction and social media addiction and things like that. It's coming. Gambling has many forms. So then on the phone. But I want to talk about this as a complementary phenomenon to what everybody comes in with. So people come to us depressed, or they come to us addicted to this or that, opioids or drugs or alcohol or gambling or something. Primary issue, shopping, whatever issues there are. And then there's the secondary issue that's always there. And that is the phone. So a lot of treatment centers, actually all treatment centers have learned the wisdom. In order to help someone heal, you got to take away their social media and their phone for a period of time. 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever that duration is. And it's the biggest thing. Some people with severe problem, jail sentences, this and that, and they're like, yeah, I need treatment, and as soon as you tell them, but you can't have your phone, just 2 weeks. Oh. Yeah, they're willing to pay rent, they're willing to do everything else. Not willing to give up their phone. And then the thing that comes is how will I pass my time? If I'm not drinking, if I'm not drugging, and if I'm not using my phone or internet or social media, how will time pass? So I encourage any of you to take out your phone if you have one and check how long you access it for. 6 hours a day, 9 hours a day, 3 hours a day, and I want to give you some details on what that's doing to you and us as a society. So, what you have to understand about the smartphone in particular is that every aspect of this technology is designed by psychologists. They hire teams of psychologists to optimize. Same thing with gambling and websites and shopping sites. It's designed, social media, it's designed to keep you in it. Because if you're kept in it, makes sense. You use the phone more likely you're going to click some more ads. More likely you're going to buy some stuff. More revenue. So if they design more buying of more phones, right? So companies are not foolish. They know that there's ways to hijack a person's mind. And so the first thing is, it's not some innocent contraption, your phone, it's actually very systematically designed to capture you like a prisoner and to hold on to you as long as possible. How does it do that? So what they found out is really interesting. This comes from gambling literature and research. When you hit the VLT and you like back in the day, right? The VLT, cling, ding. Did I win? In your brain, what's happening is you are anticipating something. And so this is what happens to dopamine content in your head. As soon as you hit that thing, there's a spike of dopamine. And then when you find out that you lose, the dopamine goes away. But your brain, it remembers things by dopamine spikes. Dopamine is like the feel-good chemical. Survival, you feel better, you eat food that spikes your dopamine, it has survival value. So your brain's like, gotta remember this. There's a really great video called Pleasure Unwoven. You can Google that or YouTube that. It's an excellent video to learn about the neurochemicals of the mind. It's in layperson language. And so you get this spike of dopamine. And then whatever that spike is, your brain hangs on to it. It gets encoded. And so why are these VLTs and things so addictive is because they're engineered. There's certain sounds that soothe the human. You know, like there's like there's certain sounds. Tinkle of the bell or countdowns, you know? And so what they've developed in social media, like Netflix is a good example. What happens at the end of Netflix? When you have Netflix, you finish an episode, what happens? Or a YouTube video, what happens at the end?
Another video pops up.
But what happens before the other video pops up?
An advertisement.
And is there a countdown?
There's a 5 seconds.
Yeah, there's a 5-second thing. You ever ask yourself, why is it 5 seconds? Why isn't it 10 seconds? Why isn't it 20 seconds? Why doesn't it just start the new video? Anticipation. You know something good's coming. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, yeah! In your brain, dopamine spike. Any of you ever spend hours just watching videos? You understand? It's designed to keep you like that. It's not random chance. They design it like that.
Shorts.
It's capitalism. It's at its best. Okay? Those of us who understand a bit about the mind, if someone asked me how to design something to be addictive, I could probably tell them lots of stuff. I'm on the other side of it, so I don't participate in that, but it's not, the neurobiology can be hijacked. So the countdown, the starting of a new thing, not asking you, how do Netflix series end typically? Do they end with like a boring ending or do they end with suspense? They end with suspense, right? They're like, someone's just gonna do something. Gotta watch the next episode to find out. Anticipation. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ping. And so, when you're on your phone, this is what's happening. Is you're consuming dopamine. And this can go on for hours. What happens when you put down your phone?
Depression.
You feel it?
Oh yeah, for sure. I got my phone.
You feel good when after you've been on the phone for 3 hours or 1 hour or 2 hours, do you feel good?
Feels like I missed something.
Yes. And what's happening is you are actually missing something. You're missing dopamine. Because you've exhausted all your dopamine. Dopamine is a feel-good chemical. You've exhausted it, and now you're going to have to make it all up again. If you ever have children, you can actually watch this process happen. You show them the television, right? They're on the television, they're watching. And then what happens when you turn it off? Freak out. How long do they freak out for? During the freak out, do they seem like they're the child, or do they seem like they're something else?
There's something else, definitely.
So what you're tuning into is a child with a depressed dopamine signature. And that time, and if you watch the child, they'll just kind of wake up. and then they're kind of fine, right? Because they've made up their dopamine. In psychological terms, they're kind of hypnotized. They're in like an altered state, and you just took away their. It's like if you're in a state of like relaxation, and someone all of a sudden, king, 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 you're mad for a little bit, and then okay. That's what you can observe in a child, and it's the same is true for you. So this is intoxication, and this is the withdrawal when you stop. Now, let me ask you a question. So I'm telling you, learning is dopamine driven. If you want to learn anything new in life, you need dopamine to be involved. How many of you in recovery have had an aha moment where something just makes sense and you're like, it makes sense now? How does that make you feel?
Good.
Really good.
There's that word again. Really good. Good. Dopamine. Okay? So you learn something, dopamine spike. Now, let's say you're in the middle of using your phone and you're getting dopamine spikes all the time that are engineered from A to B to Z of the design of that phone and of the content that you're watching. Do you think you're going to be able to encode new information and learn new things if you're in the midst of using your phone? Are you receptive to learning? No, not at all. In fact, people can tell you lots of stuff. Yeah, honey. Yeah. That's the source of many problems, right? I've had this problem my whole life. Tune out my family. Yeah, mom. Yeah, mom. And actually, it took getting married for me to kind of start to wise up to like these habits, because. Doesn't matter how smart you are, neurobiology is neurobiology. You're in intoxication cycles of dopamine, you're not learning. You're not able to encode, your system can't do two things at once. You're either learning that or you're learning that. But that's way more addictive than like your wife telling you to take out the trash or talk about emotions. So, okay, let's say you're not using your phone. Do you think when you're all depressed, are you in a good learning state? You ever try to teach a kid something right after? Okay, turn off the television. Yeah, off. Let's go learn something new. Does the child learn? What does the child do when you try to teach him? He's sleeping. Right? Or if they're old enough, they'll sneakily kind of find some other access to it. So in either of these, no learning is really happening. Learning is low efficiency. Poor learning, okay? So here's the next question. How long does this system take to reset? Humans have a very interesting thing called sensitization. This comes from allergy world, okay? So in allergies, do you have, this is a poll, ask yourself, do you get, like, you've heard about people with peanut allergies, right? Their throat swells up and they can't breathe. Do you think that happens the first time that they eat the peanut in their life? Or do you think it happens the second time?
Second time.
Yeah. Why doesn't it happen the first time?
Because the body wasn't used to it and took up.
Didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
It takes time to prepare the body. The body has to, it sees the peanut, right? So the peanut has to go into the human. So the peanut has to go in, and then After it's eaten, digested, the body's like, no, not that. This isn't good for me. And then it's like, okay, I'm going to prepare the troops. I'm going to prepare all of the IgE and IgA and all the different allergy chemicals, immunoglobulins, and then the next time they're on the lookout. And if they see it, peanut. And then and they go to war. They release all their chemicals, and that's where the swelling comes up. And the tongue swells. And then they can't breathe. They need epi. Right? That's called that process is called sensitization. And that actually happens a lot in addiction. Allergy to peanuts, in AA they call it the allergy to alcohol. Why do they call it the allergy? But because for some reason you can be away. I'll draw it here. You can be away. You can be away from alcohol for 20 years. And after 20 years, true blue alcoholic, what happens if they drink a drop? What? Full, not just a little. Full relapse, right? Not a little, a full relapse. Meaning, it picks up right where they left off. That's what the big book says. And that is true for someone with severe alcohol use disorder. It's lifelong abstinence. Why is that? It's because sensitization makes it so that even after 20 years has passed, 20 years, the system is still waiting. It's sensitized. So as soon as you stop, it's going to go back into these weird addiction cycles that result in that withdrawal, right? Sensitization. And so here's the thing about your phone. Same thing. You can be off your phone during the session, right? 1 hour session, but then you go and pick up that phone over there. And it brings back all the history of what you've been using the phone for 20 years or 10 years. And it's like you never stopped. Your brain resets into that learning mode. So I've done therapy lots with people who leave and they just go back to the same thing. And what do you think happens to their learning? Do you think they progress fast in therapy? Slower. It's not that they don't progress, but they progress slower. So in a lot of intensives, when it comes to learning and doing intensive workovers on yourself, a lot on yourself over a short period of time, there's a couple of magic rules. No intoxicants and no phone. Or only just pure emergencies because of the sensitization. You have to have a long period. And this cycle is what impairs your learning. So now you're in a treatment center. You're an inpatient. The wisdom then is you got to take away the phone until enough critical learning has happened that a person can then sustain on their own. Why do we use a phone? Same reasons why we use any addictive substance. Run away from the emotions, not deal with stuff, check out, get comfort, cover up old wounds. That's why this is a thing. We're a very disconnected society, and we have not actually seen the smartphone generation. What's that called? The generation now? Generation like Z? Gen Z? Oh, Gen Z. When Gen Z grows up to be in their 25s and 30s, you know what we're going to see? interesting thing about children. If there are mom and dad, okay, mom, dad, phone. One of them's on their phone, okay, and you have like a 3-year-old in the room, and so 3-year-old doesn't know much about like a lot of stuff, right? But they're seeing, and I don't know how they figured this out, but children, when they see 2 humans and a phone, how many humans do you think they think are in the room? Yeah, 3. They count dad, that's 1 human, 2 humans, and the phone is the 3rd. So when they're looking at when mom and dad are looking at the phones and the kid's standing there, in their mind they're prioritizing the phone human, the phony human, the phone human over themselves. That's called neglect. Okay? No judgment. But that's the definition of neglect. If you're not looking after my needs, you're prioritizing someone else's needs. You're neglecting me. That's just like the grammar of it. So the emotional response that comes from neglect is fairly unique, and it is rage. Any of you ever been ignored? How's that feel to be ignored? It's a special feeling. If you're getting beaten up or something, or if you're getting yelled at, that's still a form of attention. That implies a form of significance. Neglect is, the implication is insignificance. And so neglect is the most powerful predictor of extreme rage. And so the smartphone generation is coming. They're growing up, they're in their 18s, right, and 20s. I don't think I'm going to be out of a job anytime soon, because nothing brings out hardcore drugs and alcohol and problems like rage. Back in the old day, parents would have to work really hard to neglect their kids, but nowadays, real easy, and it's everywhere. And it's going to have a very powerful neurobiological result. So I just want everybody to keep this in mind, and we'll get to the question in just 1 second, that this is the reason why it's important to unplug from the smartphone. Especially during healing learnings. Okay? I'm not saying live without your cell phone, but really you need to look at this, because the longer you spend, the more in these cycles you are, and the less you're learning. And in terms of the sophistication of the human mind, Sudoku puzzles and mind games and crossword puzzles do not stimulate the depths of the human mind. Anything approaching to what another human interaction does. YouTube cannot stimulate your mind, no matter how many documentaries you watch, compared to learning about another human emotionally. And so when you are overly indulging in your phone, neglecting your family, this is setting you up for generations of abuse. We're a treatment center, so in terms of treatment, you're shooting yourself in your foot. You want help, but then you're sabotaging it with what you do. So I just want you to think about, this is why we take away the phone. If you're attending our inpatient program, at least for a couple of weeks, we take away the phone until you can realize your relationship with the phone. Right? And it's the hardest thing we do. It's the thing that causes the most amount of drama. But before, when we weren't doing that, our relapse rates were really high. Our learning rates were really low. And people die of addiction. This is a secondary addiction, but it's no less deadly than the opioids and the alcohol. And you add sex to this, so you add sex, and you add like sex sites, pornography sites, masturbation, right? Because that's always there. And what it does is it compounds that impaired learning cycle. And you know what? It happens every once in a while where someone they're coming to the program, we know they're always on their phone and always engaging in pornography and stuff, and then one day they don't come back from a relapse. They're found dead in a hotel. Just because you only get so many chances at healing, folks, especially if you got a deadly disease. Take your chance and really focus, because people die of stuff. We have 80 suicides in Canada every week. We have tons of overdoses and people dying of cirrhosis and liver disease. And so sometimes if you're stuck in your recovery, it's usually stuff like this that are keeping you from learning the depths of the emotional learning that you need to do. And spiritual learning, which is at the core of recovery, the saints will tell you this. Limit how much you watch the phone. There's something about that screen that deadens your ability to sense the subtle nature and meditate. If I watch that phone or that television show or that movie, I feel it in my meditation. I have to work a lot harder to get back to that source of stillness.
Can I ask a question?
Just a second, and then we'll get to your two questions. So I want you to really contemplate what is being served by you spending hours and hours on your phone. Because it has an extremely deleterious effect, a negative effect on your ability to pray and your ability to meditate, your ability to concentrate on the subtle energy signature of your partner and know when she's upset or he's upset before they blow up. There's a lot of subtle signatures in the world, and this clouds that because it's just like an avalanche. Does an avalanche pick and choose which trees it takes out, or does it just take them all out? It takes them all out. Drug use, alcohol use, it's like extensive phone use. It's like an avalanche of dopamine. It wipes out subtle learning patterns. And the people talk about AI and like it's going to replace humans. No. The human is a fine-tuned vessel that can sense everything. Never going to get replaced. At least not that. The human's an incredible thing. But this stuff turns us into animals. And then we function like sophisticated animals. And I want you to just contemplate your relationship with that. What's more important in your life? Family? Your phone? Where does it stand? Unlike alcohol, if you're a severe alcoholic, or I think everyone would agree, crystal meth has no place in regular use. No one's going to talk about moderate crystal meth use. Like, that's just not a thing. But phone, screens, this is a world of, it's 2024. You have to develop a moderate relationship with these things, just like with food. If you got an eating disorder, you can't just stay away from food or eat all the food. You're going to get a health problem. You got to learn to moderate. And how do you do that? It's self-therapy. It's a daily practice. It's processing your emotional issues. It's doing the work of recovery helps you determine what's the purpose of this relationship, because it can be very productive. It's very helpful, the phone. It lets us do things we could never do before. Fast. I'm not anti-phone, but I am anti-6 hours on your phone. And I'm guilty of this just like everyone else. I work and I use a fair amount of screens in my work. And I got to work at that. But be aware that this is the aspect. So I have two questions, and we'll end it there. Thank you. Go ahead. No names.
With the phone, being on the phone like that would be a sense of isolation as well, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Even if you are talking with somebody else?
Yes, thank you so much. That's great. So the comment is being on the phone increases your sense of isolation. And it's really important to understand that actually in all these cycles is the cycles of withdrawal. It's just not like you just come down here. You go into withdrawal before the next hit. That's why you click the next thing, is because you feel bad for a second, and then you go to the next one. And that second is so imperceptible you don't even know it. You're just clicking. But you can't just have an up without a down. Okay? So even though we're the most connected society in the history of mankind, right? We are. Billions of people connecting. But we're the least connected society in the history of mankind. And because why would you phone your friend? It just happened. One of my classmates became an astronaut. What did I do? I messaged her on social media. Congrats. Done. She said thanks. You could pick up the phone, have an interaction. I don't think I have her number. It's an old colleague of mine. But why would you? You already know the update. In the old days, you wouldn't know what's happening, so you'd call. And then not just talk about one thing, you'd exchange emotional information and, just kind of reminisce and this and that. But now, you just know, oh yeah, astronaut. Oh, they have a kid. Oh, they married now. Oh, they look like they're having fun. Do you show your worst face on social media, any of you? If you're healthy, it's probably a good thing to do. But do most people around you show their real face, real what's happening? No, you get a bunch of look at this food, it's great. Look at how much fun we're having, even though we're just fighting in the car. They don't show you that, right? And so in that way, you're totally right. Social media is incredibly isolating. It gives you the mythology of connection, but it's disconnecting. You're better off to call and ask for updates to deepen relationships. Relationships deepen through the exchange of help giving and receiving. Listening, yes.
One more question. Okay, so you know how nowadays you can be online for school. Now would it be more healthier to be in the class than it would be online?
Yep. You can achieve a lot with attention. So a focused human. When COVID hit, I wouldn't have believed this. Great question. When COVID hit, I wouldn't have believed this. Therapy could be effective online, but it can be if you have focus and meditative focus. Most don't, and even that is degraded. And so in person is just far better. So the COVID generation of schoolgoers definitely lost a couple of years there for sure. Definitely lost a couple of years, and that will show up in their school grades. It'll show up in their ability to learn. It'll show up in their emotional learning, right? That's 2 years of connecting with classmates, building relationships, right? And so it's going to show up, absolutely. And so in person is better, but online meetings better than nothing. So go to online meetings is better than nothing. And the message, so this is the caveat, if you're there and you're there for recovery and you're really focused, you'll find you're not going to be clicking the next thing like that. There's an addictive way to use things, and then there's not an addictive way, right? When you do recovery online, you'll find that you don't feel very addicted to it. It may even be hard to do it, right? There's things that are like rolling down a mountain, right? That stone rolls real easy. And then there's other things that you have to really push up the mountain. And it's not, and you stop pushing, does the rock just keep going up? No, as soon as you stop pushing, the rock goes down. Right? So the kinds of internet activities you want to engage in are the ones that are not easy for you to do. Those probably aren't addicting, right? They're probably activating different circuits. online meetings give you connectivity, connection. They counter loneliness. It's a different thing. I'm grossly oversimplifying, but not really. We have to develop that subtle relationship because you do need the phone and you do need, you can't just like live without. It's not easy to live without these things. And so we know from recovery with food problems, you can build that relationship. So there's no reason you can't build that relationship with this. And what we generally find is as people build recovery, build their connection, their phone use becomes very appropriate. But at the very beginning, you just kind of gotta put it away. I suggest. Good, thank you.
So I was just gonna, you pretty much answered it, but recovery stuff is all right online, but we need to be more involved with each other to be able to communicate better so we can learn to deal with people emotionally, because if we just learn everything off the internet, we'll never learn from each other, right?
A heart and a smiley face on a chat screen is not quite the same as a hug.
No, I go, mostly I'm on meditation and stuff, but if I don't go on meditation and I'm watching like YouTube clips instead of meditation or recovery stuff, then it feels like I'm missing out on shit.
Yeah.
Like it feels like my recovery stopped.
Absolutely.
But if I'm meditating online or I'm listening to your videos or other meditation videos or stuff that has to do with benefiting yourself and your mind, then it's not so bad. But as soon as I start flipping through YouTube and listening to shorts, it's like I feel dull.
Yeah. And that's when you feel dull, that's this process unfolding. You lose subtlety. And as soon as you feel that happening, you should stop.
Yeah, well, that's what I was telling Jeff last week. I said it's like I gotta quit going on my phone because I can't deal with it anymore.
And today the topic is primarily the phone, but you know, this is the same reason why you go to an AA meeting. You don't want to be smoking a bunch of cigarettes right after or in the middle of it or before it, right? Because cigarettes, they create the same up and down thing. Numbs your system, activates your sensitization, and overall reduces how much you learn. So it's not just social media and the phone. Phones are topic, but this process plays out with the many different types of it. They call it cross-addiction. And that video is by an emergency room doctor. Pleasure Unwoven is a great source of information that we do play during our day program. That talks a lot about the neurobiology of cross-addiction. Because it is a thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, good, excellent. So it did go a little bit long, but it is a very important topic. My suspicion, maybe this won't be a hit on YouTube, this talk, but maybe it will be. Let's see. Forgive me if I misspoke. Like I said, I'm grossly oversimplifying, but I just want you to highlight the importance of no phone or very little phone, especially in early recovery, to build up that learning really quick so that you can stabilize your life. Okay? Thank you.